All right. Welcome back, traders. Hopefully, you guys had a wonderful week. It's been quite an interesting week with Powell's news here about a rate cut, and we had some pretty crazy volatility. ETH tagging new all-time highs today on a wick. Bitcoin smashing down to about $1.10 earlier today. So we'll cover the weekly here for Tether real quick. And yeah, so we got a bit of rejection. We had, like we said last week, we put in like what looked to be like a pin bar or a hammer candle. We did start to see some follow through on that until basically the Powell speech. And then this got smacked all the way down, but still technically closed a bullish engulfing candle on the weekly. But my signals are still short. I didn't get a deviation. Once we get deviation outside these bands here, that's usually when we get the counter trend longs. And so that's kind of when I'd be really kind of cautioning you guys to de-risk out of the market. I'm not saying it's bad to de-risk if you're in profits on stuff. You always want to take profits for sure. But I do think that there is a bigger move coming here. We will continue to monitor this weekly momentum here that is looking like it's trying to tick up here on the weekly time frame for Tether. But our 2 weeks still tick down here, our 3 weeks still ticking down here, and our monthly is also a full oscillation down. So it's basically suggesting maybe we get a bit of a drawdown or a sideways or a pullback. But overall, in general here over the coming months, it looks like this is going to continue to the downside. Day to day, whatever's going to happen day to day is what it is. Our 2-day time frame is still technically short here. Our daily did start to flip long, but kind of got rejected into this region here. That this was like the last week's Powell speech right here. So we're basically sitting in the middle of a range on Tether. But our daily momentum here is suggesting downside stochastics, right? We did get a sell signal here on the daily. So if that should materialize, then we should see some upside in these markets. We also are clipping here a bit on the wave trend. And hopefully we do see that follow through. That's kind of what we want to really end up seeing is this get rejected and come down to the bottom of this range or even break the bottom of this range. That would be very bullish action to see. All right. Now, on the flip side, if we don't see that, right, you got to always, factor in the probabilities here. We are, kind of deep in this cycle here. ETH has been on a run. It technically made new all-time highs. The spotlight is actually on ETH right now because of, what it's doing. This is our third weekly overbought candle here on the RSI. We're, sitting around 80. We're in that parabolic move zone on the weekly time frame. We can see these RSIs go as high as 87s, maybe even up to 90s, even 98s back here in 2021. During that bull run, we saw ETH kind of explode up into the high 90s. Okay. The good thing here is that the monthly chart is nowhere near overbought. Okay. When we were hitting those 90s and 95s in 2021, the monthly was already sitting, in the 90s on the monthly. And the momentum was already in the way overbought territory. So that means to me that ETH has quite a move ahead of it here. Okay. So strap yourselves in. I think we really will see a lot of upside here on ETH. I have nothing really bad to say about it from the higher time frame perspective. The lower time frames here, we could get sideways or pullbacks here. That's normal. There's going to be a lot of whiplash. There's going to be lots of liquidation, smackdowns, and all that fun stuff here in this bull market. You got these big whales institutions in here. They don't really want to let retail accumulate and or really make money. Like they've been sitting sidelined out of this market for however many cycles, and now they're actually in. They want to control the game. All right. So that's kind of what it is. We're sitting here basically playing their game now. Right. And so, but I think the best thing you can do is really just zoom out and not really worry about this type of stuff, because again, like the high time frame here is really suggesting a massive move to come here. Okay. And even if it just ends up being a few overbought candles on these monthly timeframes, but a few overbought candles on these monthly timeframes could easily land us back at this $10,000 to $12,000 region on ETH. Okay, I mean, you look at the pattern. This looks like a massive ascending triangle about to break out from swing low to swing high. Is about a 300% measured move. Okay, and 300% measured move takes you about, if you do the whole move, it takes you about to $18,000. Figure somewhere halfway in between. That's around $8,000-9,000 on a full swing if we don't complete the whole measured move. Okay, so not financial advice, but to me this looks extremely bullish. I have nothing really bad to say about the high time frame here on ETH. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is showing a bit of weakness. We discussed this last stream when we had the weekly bearish divergence kind of materialize, right, and tell us, hey, we're going to see some downside here. We had the weekly bearish divergence. We got a bit of a pullback here on Bitcoin. But what I ultimately think, I mean, yeah, this can really go sideways and or down. It's not telling me that there's going to be immediate upside here on Bitcoin, but this actually gives the altcoins a chance to catch up if they just kind of consolidate it up here and don't really just crash the price, right? And so that's kind of what I'm alluding to here, is I think we're going to see rotations. We're already seeing rotations happen. And so I think we will continue to see that as long as these high time frames aren't getting way too extended. All right. That's pretty much the gist of it on the macro here for crypto. Bitcoin and ETH, I would say, are the ones to really pay attention to. Yeah, you got, your mid cap coins like, like avalanches of this world. This thing looks like it's just set up for upside. Like, let's be real about it. Like that. This to me looks like it's got plenty of room to run. It's nowhere near overbought on the weekly. It's sitting at a 54 bullish. Okay. Yeah, your weekly momentum here might be getting a little bit exhausted on the weekly, but if you zoom out to like the 2 week, the 3 week, and the monthly, well, you already know what this looks like. This looks like it's got a power move ahead of it. After ETH makes its move, you're going to see rotation into the L1s. You're probably going to see rotation into mid caps and small caps, and then your complete S coins are going to be flying off the chart. And that's probably towards the end of it, but this is basically how the rotation of capital happens in these markets. So we're probably going to see a lot more love to the bigger caps this run because you have institutions in. Retail is kind of like not even here right now. They'll probably be here towards the end of this cycle or the end of this alt run, where you'll see your meme coins run probably. That's my 2 cents on it. I think you're going to see it, but I don't think you're going to see it just yet. Okay, so I would really pay attention to base chain is probably really good for retail right now. If you don't want to just buy like a select altcoin or something or whatever you're doing, I think that's the TVL on that looks pretty good. We can look at some TVL charts too here in a second. I just want to get my stream out. I didn't even send this out to everybody. If you guys could, make sure you guys smash out the like button, hit the subscribe button, take the notification bell. And if you think people can find value here, of course, please, share the link. That would be greatly appreciated. Kind of scary retail is not shown up yet. Yeah, it is kind of scary, but it's kind of the scary part about it is it means that we're pretty much heading into the last phase of this massive bubble that's about to materialize right now. And what it screams to me is most retail can't even afford normal things. So how are they going to afford speculating on a market? Okay. And so if you're still here and you've been in and you've been holding You might as well just continue the trend until you see that benefit. Okay. I'm doing the same things. Okay. There will be, in my opinion, there will be probably a surge of retail that does flow in, but I would guess probably at the very, very end. Usually retail comes in at the top of the market cycle, like almost every time. So don't think that's going to change. That's usually how it plays out, unfortunately. Okay, right. There's 5 people on my stream right now, and ETH just made new all-time highs. So retail doesn't really care about what's going on here. All right. So for the folks that are here, I commend you for staying here and staying tuned into what I do, what I've been doing. You guys know I'm here almost every week unless I got some family stuff going on or I don't feel well or whatever. But majority of the time I'm here every week for you guys talking about the charts. And I'll tell you straight up, if I think they look crappy, you're going to know. I don't think these charts look crappy right now on the high time frame. They all look really, really good. Okay. And so just kind of get the popcorn out. If you're in positions, you guys should be in positions. We've been accumulating now for like the last, 3 years. So time to get paid. Time to get paid, right? We're going to probably go into some crazy hyperinflation. And I'll explain why I think we are in a second. The way I see this is the Fed. The Fed cutting rates is usually a precursor to when they're going to start printing money too. All right, this is the Fed balance sheet. And we've been talking about this for some time. All right, but if you see, the last time they started printing money was actually in September of 2019. So it was actually about 6 months before you had a black swan event, right? The COVID event, which actually initiated the next bull market. So what I think is possible, I'm not saying it's probable, but what I think is possible actually is that this cycle might potentially extend into Q1 or Q2 before they actually, maybe crash these markets. I don't know if that's going to necessarily hold true, but the reason why I'm saying it is because if you look at those monthly timeframes, those stochastics on those monthlies take months to play out, right? Like when we sat here and we're talking about ETH Bitcoin bottoming out in April, it's only just now starting to make this move. Like what, 4 months later after it bottomed out in May here and really start to reverse. So how many more months do you think it's going to take for, even ETH Bitcoin ratio monthly time frame is nowhere near overbought on the ratio, right? Like it's not telling you to sell your ETH back to Bitcoin right here. Okay, people are going to strategize selling their ETH back to Bitcoin at the 0.08 level because this is the top of this range. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like this can take a while to materialize and play out. And I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking that. Here's your 2 month. Your 2 month just crossed up. The last time you had a 2 month cross up was July of 2020, and it ran for a year and a half. A year and a half. This is telling you that this run could go for a year and basically a year and change, is what this is saying. Okay. I'm not saying we won't get major drawdowns and whatever along the way here. We could get to like 7K. They smack it back down to 4K. We go sideways for a couple months, whatever. Okay. But I ultimately think that this ratio might even make new highs this cycle. It's possible. Okay. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible, not probable. Okay. It's possible, not probable. So this is kind of what I'm looking at. Paying attention to the ratio charts is, in my opinion, really important because when ETH Bitcoin tops out against Bitcoin, it's probably time to sell into dollars. I mean, yeah, you could always sell back into Bitcoin, but then you run the risk of Bitcoin, dropping in US dollar value. But if you don't care about US dollar value, which in my opinion, you shouldn't really care that much about it, because they're just going to keep devaluing your dollar anyway. So holding Bitcoin, I think long-term is the way to go, not financial advice. Okay, guys, just based off what we've seen over the past decade for Bitcoin. Although Bitcoin has never really seen a recession, it's also never really seen some drastic bubble in the stock market because it was born out of the 2008 financial crisis. So, but because it was born out of the 2008 financial crisis, I think there was a reason for that. Maybe it will thrive in a recession. Well, as soon as we start to see change in behaviors like that, that's when you really know, right? But it's always good to keep some Bitcoin, is what I'm trying to say. All right. So what's up, Flap? What's up, IJ Money? We got 5 people on here. Show your faces. We got Rashi, IJ Money, and Flap. That's 3. Where are the other 2 folks? We just got some lurkers. Come on. Don't be scared. It's just you and I on the stream. I'm surprised there aren't more folks on the streams, man. Really. What can I do? I don't really market or do anything out of the box like that. I just don't feel it's necessary because, well, I don't know. I don't really care that much, to be honest. It's not. It's a very, very niche thing that I do, and the folks that are here appreciate it. I appreciate you guys' continued support in watching the streams, and I think you guys obviously get good value out of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't show up every week. So, all right. My bro showed up. There's some support. We'll take that. Yeah. All right, Jay. We'll pull up H-bar. So the H-bar measured move, the cup and the handle is in the making. Okay. You could argue that it's actually, I have it originally plotted as a channel on TradingView like this. It was like this. You had that breakdown and candled right back into it. It just depends on how you really see it. But the way I see it is you got your top of your range. We're going to use candle bodies here, okay? Not wicks. We're going to use candle bodies. And you got your bottom of your range here, and then you have your bear market range lows here. Okay. Hbar.d. Okay. We'll look at hbar.d. So it looks good. Your monthly super trend has been long. There's not really that much data on this chart. You are clipping long on the monthly wave trend. It actually looks like a big inverse head and shoulders pattern, right? You got your neckline here, you get your break, and you go to the top. Cool. And so you could get a bit of consolidation here. It looks like you're going to go sideways a bit on your dominance chart, probably because ETH has the show right now, right? So I think once the ETH rotation is done and ETH kind of appreciates enough, well, there's all that liquidity that comes into ETH, it'll spew out to all the other blockchains, right? That's typically how the rotations go. I don't really foresee that changing anytime soon. And your 3-day here kind of holding your Kijun line here above this pivot level. But just looks like a nice consolidation going on. That's what it looks like. And your wave trend kind of suggesting that as well, with the inverse head and shoulders kind of set up there on your momentum wave. And yeah, you could argue that that's a bull flag or a descending broadening formation. All right. You got an XRP target for this cycle? Well, I do. I actually have one on my TradingView, and I don't think it's really changed. The target that I had for XRP was $24. That was the target that I posted, and this was July 27th of 2022. And it was the pennant, just based on Fibonacci levels. You got in between targets between $8 and $12. if we don't get a hyper aggressive move, but I think we're going to see that stuff. Like, we're not in euphoria right now. We're just not yet anyway. So here's the H bar dominance chart. Yeah, you could see you got a nice channel here. Yeah, maybe you get this push into, like, maybe somewhere at the top of that channel. We can use Fibonacci's and see where that might land for the H bar dominance chart. I'm fibbing to the top of this range here because that was clearly the top of last cycle. All right, so yeah, I would say like 0.69% or maybe even up to this 1% region looks about right. So you're looking at anywhere from like a 2.5, 3x to almost 4x. Okay, that's what that looks like. And your monthly RSI is looking pretty good. Beautiful. Right? Looks very nice. H bar looks good. Okay, cool. We'll look at DOT and Matic. We're just going to look at dollar charts. I mean, if you guys want me to look at the dominance chart, I can do that. Sam, what's up, dude? All right, so Polkadot, man. I mean, if this isn't the bottom for Polkadot, I don't know what is. This looks pretty low risk down here, skating along the bottom of the range. Even if you were just to set up a swing on it, you swing to the top of the range. But to me, yeah, I mean, I don't really foresee it going much lower than it already is. Look at your weekly. Your weekly here looks coiled up for a move. You're in a squeeze on the weekly too. You're just kind of fluttering in the squeeze. Your 3 days probably ready. You can see that. You got some nice pressure being built there on Polkadot down here. All right. Yeah, like the $10, $11 regions on a swing. If you really want to look at this from like a Wyckoff accumulation schematic, this is your spring back into the range, and eventually you get your markup phase into the rest of this run. Okay, and I bet the monthly chart looks probably insane. Yeah, it hasn't flipped yet on the monthly, but you can clearly see the bullish divergence here on the monthly stochastics. Okay. Right. I guess it's really not divergence because you didn't. Well, yeah, I mean, you're making lower low on price, but there's no divergence on this actually. It's just really oversold. Okay. Your 3 week here is, so your 2 week here gave you that buy signal, which will probably materialize into a 3 week and then into a monthly. Polkadot's a really slow mover, man. But yeah, I think Polkadot's great. It's been around for a while. It's definitely a blue chip. So it's a $6 billion market cap today, 6.6 billion. Look at Matic. So Matic here also flagging, man. It's a big flag pattern on the 2 week, 3 week monthly chart. You clip in on the monthly. Yeah, that looks like a big swing on Matic here, man. Okay. This has room to go all the way overbought on the monthly wave trend. That could materialize into a pretty big move. All right. Now you're reversing like in the middle of nowhere here, right? Just with the macro market going back up. There's no real confluence areas on this reversal. At least with Polkadot, you were at a level, I'll say. So, yeah, but it could end up doing something like this because you have that big swing on the monthly coming in, okay? Where it ends up going, that's kind of yet to be determined, but you have targets. You have major levels here. You can see 50 cents is a big resistance level. This 70-cent region is big resistance. And as soon as you start to really take out these levels, You can talk about, Fibonacci levels and maybe this being one big flagpole, one big huge flag. It does look like that, by the way, though. It does look like one big flag, one big consolidation. Okay. Okay. Very well could materialize into something like that. Okay, later on. All right, I think we covered all the tickers for now. Let me know based on that target and a call on total where it lines up with H bar USD. I think you mean total 3S, and I was projecting about a 300% measured move. So that's basically in line with that. If 0.69 to 1% dominance is where you're looking for that. Okay. But yeah. SHIB. SHIB in a very large, very, very large pennant up here, man. It's still in it. That looks massive. It looks just massive. And the monthly looks crazy too. That looks absolutely insane. I have nothing bad to say about SHIB coin up here. Could we get like a capitulation dip or something and then rip back into it? Yeah, that can happen. Like if the whole market pulls back right now, and I could foresee something like that happening because anyone that has this chart sees the same thing that I see, right? So like we're not in meme season yet. So they can manipulate this chart and do whatever they want with it. They can take out this range low. They can tag this bottom here and then capitulate it and then rip it back into the structure, and then you get your major move. That's basically what they did to ETH, by the way. So that pattern right there wouldn't shock me at all if that played out like that. Big fake out capitulation drop and then just send it. Okay. That's a possibility. Remember that. It's not doing that right now, but I wouldn't discount that potential. Okay. PRME. Wait, let's take a look at it now. Okay. Looks like I've charted this before. So you broke your downtrend. Yeah, looks like you're just in a consolidation after, tagging some resistance here. Yeah, maybe flagging up here, man. You got the 2-day here resetting. Looks good, actually. Your daily here kind of oversold on your stochastics, maybe like setting up for this move. Yeah, it looks very good, Flap, actually. It looks like a nice flag. Yeah, maybe even a wedge setup there for a continuation. Looks pretty good. I don't know what this stock does, but that looks pretty good. Let's see, did we tag some major fib extensions there? Okay, we did. So we tagged the 50% retracement level there, and overthrew this fib level. Looks like your target right now is back to $5, right? Unless this was your first wave out, and what it really could be, man. So you got a massive bull flag, and then you get your second wave out, and that could be back up to this region here, this $10 region. Right. Yeah, just watch this $5 level, man. You start breaking that. I don't see why you don't come up to tag this order block up here, this $7 to $8 region. Okay. That looks pretty strong, man. Nice. That looks really good, actually. Oh man, your monthly. Look at your monthly, dude. This move just started. 33 on the RSI. And look at the volume. Yeah, solid, dude. That's probably just a hold. Probably just a hold. Is a low cap? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, this is actually the time to look at some of these lower cap stocks. Okay, since we're going into this alt run right now, the rotation is going to be real. There's going to be some crazy low cappers that do some stupid stuff across the board, crypto, stocks, you name it. All right. Yeah, all right. We'll look at Rivian. Yeah, not the best performing stock, of course. It looks like it's trying to round out a bottom. You got this support that you're kind of holding here. Man, not the best on the monthly, dude. Yeah, you got RSI going up with price going up too. Yeah, you're clipping short on the monthly, man. So what could happen is you could potentially just break down one more time and hold this range low before you really come back up, do something like that. That's potentially in the cards here for Rivian. I'm saying it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen that way, but it's bearish overall. Yes, it's making higher lows, but it's not breaking its trend, right? The trend is still your friend here on Rivian. You know, we took a couple trades on this before. Yeah, the weekly time frame looks interesting, though, I suppose. Kind of just holding this neutral territory and looks coiled. It does look coiled on the weekly. Those look interesting on the weekly. Yeah, the weekly looks good, actually. Weekly looks good. We want to go to line here and see what's going on here. You have a clear downtrend of resistance here that you're trying to poke your head through. You try to fake break, came back and tested again, failed, came back to support, made another higher low. All right, so this is a make or break moment here for Rivian because to me, you've built up enough higher lows here. There's lots of accumulation happening on this weekly time frame that I see. Yeah, and the 3 days showing some bull div as well. That looks pretty good. You could have a big week here for Rivian coming in with this double bottom. Okay, so I would say you want to clear this 1650 range. If you can manage to clear the 1650 range, you know, you'd be looking, you know, to the $27 level. All right, that's where I really would be looking on something like this. And really, it's like if you break this pennant, it's a 148% measured move from wherever you end up breaking it. So you could extend even as high as here to this $30 level on Rivian. And we can Fibonacci it too. Yeah, so we were continuing to reject the 1650 level, so you know that that's a big level. And then, you know, this region in here, you know, this is a lot of resistance here. There was a lot of trading action in this region. You know, once you start to break $40, man, I would say it's just straight up from there because this action is straight down, right? So, but you got some work to do. You got some work to do here. To get really bullish on Rivian, you would want to see closures above that $35 to $40 region longer term. Okay. Yeah, I would. I mean, there is opportunity down here with the stock. Obviously, it's nowhere near extended, overbought, nothing. It's like a 20 something on the monthly RSI. It's probably going to be good long term if the company is doing well, you know, long term, right? $15 billion market cap. Okay. Yeah, it looks decent. Okay. Yeah, so in the meantime, it looks like we're pulling back here a little bit, whatever. Bitcoin looks kind of weak. Right, that weekly momentum is still slated to the downside. Like we said last week, that divergence is going to play out. How deep are we going to drop on Bitcoin? That's a good question. I had levels to about 110. This region right here looks like it's probably going to get there at some point. Yeah. So I think we might see a couple weeks of drawdown here in these markets potentially. ETH kind of making a new all-time high and getting rejected right there. Lots of manipulation on ETH there today. Coin versus Bitcoin. Yeah, we can do that. So coin versus Bitcoin on the weekly is in the middle of its range, I would say, making it looks like it's making a higher low, right? Big rectangle. Coin looks bullish, like I would say bullish against Bitcoin here. But it would make sense if coin went to go gap fill, right? You got that gap there from the earnings. That's what this setup looks like to me, is a gap fill setup. But yeah, holding structure is good. You know, coming back in, holding the supports there are good against Bitcoin. Coin on the 2-month looks pretty nuts against Bitcoin. Okay. So that should tell you something, right? If coin is like a basket of cryptos, right? And all coins are part of that, and coin looks bullish against Bitcoin, then you're probably going to see some sort of all run, right? Sorry, post about MSTR BTC. Yeah. Yeah, interesting times here, I would say. There's going to be some volatility, man. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be easy set. I mean, you got some easy high time frame setups, but those take time to materialize and play out. So just kind of the patience game is what's going to pay here, guys. All right. So yeah. Yeah, the daily there on Tether is looking like if that's just barely any sell pressure, that's like some bull div that's on the RSI. Okay. So we'll see a bit of drawdown here. Yeah, ETH versus coin looks insane. Just broke out pretty much on the monthly. Yeah, probably want to own ETH over coin. This is what this chart says. Right. Monthly clip, monthly buy signal. Yeah. That's a wedge break. So you're probably going back up to the top of the range against coin. You know, I'm not talking about price discovery. I mean, it could easily do that, but I would say, normally on a falling wedge, you get to the top and then you get your drop or your pullback or your retest or whatever. Okay. So this is telling you that ETH should outperform Coinbase even just from here about 150%. Even if it does half of that, still like an 80% appreciation holding ETH over Coinbase. That's pretty massive, right? So, what does ETH look like versus NVIDIA? It's probably so wrecked. Yeah, there you go. Roll your NVIDIA for ETH, man. Beautiful. Oh, what a beautiful wedgie. Wow. What do you think about that chart, Jay? That looks insane. Big range, man. Big effing range. Like, yeah, falling wedge breakout. Okay, so what? You get the break and maybe the retest, whatever. Eventually, you're getting to. Oh my god, dude! This thing 8x, 700% move against Nvidia. That's fucking nuts, dude. But look at it. Look at the monthly bull div. Hello. That's crazy, bro. There you go. So there you have it. ETH is probably the play. It's been the play. Yes, exactly. So why wouldn't they rotate, right? That's the whole thing. They need to rotate. That's exactly what I'm saying, alluding to, is that it's a rotation right now. It should be a rotation. How does ETH look like against the Russell 2000? How about that? Because that is exactly what we're talking about. Things that are like, right? So ETH versus the Russell. Even ETH versus the Russell looks pretty bullish. All right. It actually just looks like ETH USD, pretty much. It's almost identical to its ETH USD chart. So this doesn't really. We already know that ETH is probably better to hold than any of the Russell 2000 stocks. Okay. So there you go. We do have, monthly Bollinger Band deviation here. So you might get an early sell on it. But it can just come back into the bands and go sideways and then following month just send. ETH versus the Qs. Yeah, it's a little bit further behind than ETH versus the Russell. It's almost the same chart. They all point up. They all say Sell the Qs for ETH. They all say the same things right now. So on the high time frames anyway. I'm not looking at daily charts or even weeklies, just monthlies. Just where park your money for the next whatever 3 to 6 months, a year, however long it takes. Yeah. Well, it makes sense. You know what? What does ETH look like versus Google? Because Google, I think, is still undervalued based on the rest of them. It's still alluding to be rolling Google for ETH. All right. We'll look at ETH versus Amazon too. Same chart as ETH Google, pretty much. What does ETH Tesla look like? And ETH Tesla looks even better than the rest of them. Wow. This is going to go on a run against Tesla. Interesting. Cool. Well, hopefully this was a very helpful stream for everybody. We've been live for about 47 minutes here. Tesla is the worst, yes. But and that's probably because they have Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin is about to underperform ETH. So that makes some sense. That's probably exacerbating the ratio, I would say. Yeah, I'm not buying any of these car manufacturing stocks right now. The only stocks that I'm actually in right this very moment are Bitfarms. I like the monthly chart on this thing. In Bit Digital, they rolled all of their Bitcoin into ETH. And I got a little play on GameStop right now. That's basically it. And I'm just kind of range trading it. I don't know if this range is going to hold, but the daily time, I was more so trading the 3-day time frames here on GameStop. Yeah, SBET. I traded SBET a bit. Looks good. Yep. Looks good. I got some of this breakout on SBET. This BTCS stock is actually about to give their shareholders dividends in ETH. That's pretty nuts. Yeah. This is quite a quarterly squeeze on something like this. I bought some shares here off this like 140.50 level. I took some profits around the $7 level, and I rolled some of it into Bit Digital and Bitfarms, as I think these are also really nice setups on monthly timeframes. Also kind of smaller caps, but they have exposure to ETH too. So it's the ETH game. It's the ETH show, man. ETH is the infrastructure long term here that's going to be utilized for all these rails. So yeah, these guys are finally waking up to that. Just a waiting game, man. That's it. You can dig us around here with tether dominance and whatever, Bitcoin pulling back or whatever is what it is. Well, there's nothing much we can really do. But, go to like the quarterly time frame on Tether. Yeah, I don't know. You got an RSI break on the quarterly here. It looks like it's got more room to drop. Could argue that you're oversold on your stochastics, but I don't know. I think you got some more room to drop here on the Tether, on the higher time frames. But yeah, okay, it's holding the bottom of its range. It looks like a bit of an accumulation happening here, but all that really needs to have happen is it makes an attempted rally and we get a big pullback, and it just gets smacked and whatever, and then just dumps, and that's your run, you know. So we're probably pending this pullback move here the next whatever few days, week, whatever, however long this takes, maybe even the next few weeks, doesn't really matter. Yeah, like I said, I didn't get any counter trends longs here on the weekly. These are usually pretty good. Whenever these kind of came in, these were kind of tops, local tops in the market. This was the December highs we made where it told you to take profits. And then January, you had a second chance to get out and take profits. And then these counter trend shorts were, hey, man, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. So we didn't deviate outside these bands. So I think it's just kind of just hold right now and let those monthly time frames kind of play out. I think we got a little bit of a bumpy ride here before we see some clear skies ahead on some of these assets. All right, that's pretty much it. Bitcoin dominance we didn't cover, but flip the weekly super trend. I think we do end up doing something like this where we get like this massive capitulation event that happens eventually on Bitcoin dominance, where ETH just kind of just runs, and after ETH runs, then you're going to get this big pullback and Bitcoin dominance just spike back up, right? Because look at your monthly chart. Yeah, I think you're going to come down to maybe this 52 to 55% region. People take profits back into Bitcoin, right? Because that's what they're going to probably end up doing. But yeah, you got this bearish divergence that's playing out. That's why you're seeing ETH start to perform. Okay. Okay, you're going to probably bounce. You're coming down to the bottom Bollinger here. You didn't spike. So like the last time you got the real top was this big spike down here on Bitcoin dominance. That was the top of the last cycle, May of 21. You could argue that was the top, even though we made a double top. But that was really the time to be scaling out of stuff. So we'll see how this pans out. But to me, it looks like we got a lot of room to run on these altcoins still. All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen. Let me know what else you guys got. If you have any other requests, please drop them in the chat. I'll take a look at them real quick. If not, we'll catch you guys next week. And hopefully we don't see that much blood on the streets here. But, I think the blood on the streets that we do see here is going to be setting us up for the next few months for upside. So, all right. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week. Have a wonderful week.